The story of Bonnie and Clyde. Clyde Champion Barrow and his companion Bonnie Parker were shot to death by officers in an ambush near Sales, Bienville Parish, Louisiana, on May 23, 1934, after one of the most colourful and spectacular manhunts the nation had seen. Barrow was suspected of numerous killings and was wanted for murder, robbery and state charges of kidnapping. Bonnie and Clyde met in Texas in January 1930. At the time, Bonnie was 19 and married to an imprisoned murderer. Clyde was 21 and unmarried. Soon after, Clyde was arrested for burglary and sent to jail. He escaped using a gun Bonnie had smuggled to him, was recaptured and sent back to prison. Clyde was paroled in February 1932, rejoined Bonnie and resumed a life of crime. In addition to an automobile theft charge, Bonnie and Clyde were suspects in other crimes. At the time they were killed in 1934, they were believed to have committed 13 murders, plus several robberies and burglaries. Barrow, for example, was suspected of murdering 2 police officers at Joplin, Missouri, and kidnapping a man and woman in rural Louisiana, who he released near Waldo, Texas. Numerous sightings followed, linking this pair with bank robberies and automobile thefts. Clyde allegedly murdered a man at Hillsborough, Texas, committed robberies at Lufkin and Dallas, murdered one sheriff, and wounded another at Stringtown, Oklahoma, kidnapped a deputy at Carlsbad, New Mexico, stole an automobile at Victoria, Texas, attempted to murder a deputy at Wharton, Texas, committed murder and robbery at Abilene and Sherman, Texas, committed murder at Dallas, Texas, abducted a sheriff and the chief of police at Wellington, Texas, and committed murder at Joplin and Columbia, Missouri. Later in 1932, Bonnie and Clyde began travelling with Raymond Hamilton, a young gunman. Hamilton left them several months later and was replaced by William Daniel Jones in November. Ivan M. Buck Barrows, brother of Clyde, was released from the Texas State Prison on March 23, 1933. Having been granted a full pardon by the governor. He quickly joined Clyde, bringing his wife Blanche, so the group now numbered 5 persons. This gang embarked upon a series of bold robberies that made headlines across the country. They escaped capture in various encounters with the law. However, their activities made law enforcement efforts to apprehend them even more intense. During a shootout with police in Iowa on July 29, 1933, Buck Barrows was fatally wounded and Blanche was captured. Jones, who was frequently mistaken for Pretty Boy Floyd, was captured in November 1933 in Houston, Texas, by the sheriff's office. Bonnie and Clyde went on together. On November 22, 1933, a trap was set up by the Dallas, Texas sheriff and his deputies in an attempt to capture Bonnie and Clyde near Grand Prairie, Texas. But the couple escaped the officers' gunfire. They held up an attorney on the highway and took his car, which they abandoned in Miami, Oklahoma. On December 21, 1933, Bonnie and Clyde held up and robbed a citizen at Shreveport, Louisiana. On January 16, 1934, 5 prisoners, including Raymond Hamilton, who was serving sentences totaling more than 200 years, were liberated from the Eastern State Prison at Waldo, Texas, by Clyde Barrow, accompanied by Bonnie Parker. 2 guards were shot by the escaping prisoners with automatic pistols, which had been previously concealed in a ditch by Barrow. As the prisoners ran, Barrow covered their retreat with bursts of machine gun fire. Among the escapees was Henry Methvin of Louisiana. On April 1, 1934, Bonnie and Clyde encountered 2 young highway patrolmen near Grapevine, Texas. Before the officers could draw their guns, they were shot. On April 6, 1934, a constable at Miami, Oklahoma, fell mortally wounded by Bonnie and Clyde, who also abducted a police chief whom they wounded. The FBI had jurisdiction solely on the charge of transporting a stolen automobile, although the activities of the Bureau agents were vigorous and ceaseless. Every clue was followed. Wanted notices, furnishing fingerprints, photograph description, criminal record, and other data were distributed to all officers. The agents followed the trail through many states and into many haunts of the Barrow gang, particularly Louisiana. The association with Henry Methvin and the Methvin family of Louisiana was discovered by FBI agents, and they found that Bonnie and Clyde had been driving a car stolen in New Orleans. On April 13, 1934, an FBI agent, through investigation in the vicinity of Russell, Louisiana, obtained information which definitely placed Bonnie and Clyde at a remote section southwest of that community. The home of the Methvins was not far away, and the agent learned of visits there by Bonnie and Clyde. Special agents in Texas had learned that Clyde and his companion had been travelling from Texas to Louisiana, sometimes accompanied by Henry Methvin. The FBI and local law enforcement authorities in Louisiana and Texas concentrated on apprehending Bonnie and Clyde, whom they strongly believed to be in the area. It was later learned that Bonnie and Clyde, with some of the Methvins, had staged a party at Black Lake, Louisiana, on the night of May 21, 1934, and were due to return to the area 2 days later. Before dawn on May 23, 1934, a posse composed of police officers from Louisiana and Texas, including Texas Ranger Frank Harmer, concealed themselves in the bushes along the highway near Sales, Louisiana. In the early daylight, Bonnie and Clyde appeared in an automobile, and when they attempted to drive away, the officers opened fire. Bonnie and Clyde were killed instantly.